I would like to demonstrate a method to automate changing of your power profile in Windows 7 or Windows 8 from some sort of power saving mode that might be affecting your absolute raw speed of a particular app. Changing it to high performance mode or maximum performance mode just for that duration of time that app is running. When you're done with the app and close it, will return you back to your power profile your laptop was at. So let me explain better how I'm going to do this. We're on a ThinkPad, we're on a Lenovo IdeaPad Yoga 13, and this particular machine here, let's hit Windows key plus Q, type MSInfo 32, and give you an overview of the system. So this is a Yoga. Here's the CPU, Ivy Bridge, BIOS, and all that other detail. Okay. We happen to be running 1600 by 900 pixels right now, recording this with LogMeIn remote control because remote desktop connection won't allow us to do video benchmarks and so forth to show frame rates. So the color depth is set too high. There'll be a little lag that's really just an artifact of how I'm recording through LogMeIn using Camtasia on a remote machine. So the actual Lenovo IdeaPad is ready and running just a couple things. A browser with a couple tabs. FurMark is what I'm going to use to show you frames per second before and after, and CPU-Z will show you the gigahertz in real time, the clock speed of the CPU. So let's start with FurMark. Why did I download that bench? Well, it's free and easy to find. I've downloaded it, installed it. All I'm going to do is hit the Windows key and start typing fur and hit enter and launching FurMark. It launches a browser tab, a little annoying, but other than that, these defaults will work fine for our needs. I click on burn-in test, read the warnings. If you're on a homebrew machine that has marginal cooling, be careful here. Okay, frames per second right there under my mouse cursor. Forget that the background just changed, which affected things a bit. We're getting 3 frames a second on this power profile mode that I'm on right now. Let's go from power saver up to balanced and watch what happens to the frames per second. Immediately changes to 7. So we went from 3 to 7. Dramatic jump. Fine. There are certain apps, perhaps emulators or high power apps, that really require the absolute maximum setting. That little bit of time moving from some sort of power sipping CPU state with lower gigahertz over to a high gigahertz state can affect some apps. For the most part, balanced mode works great on something like a Yoga, convertible tablet, Ultrabook, whatever you want to call this Windows 8 box. In balanced mode works great for the most part, but there are some apps I found that are exceptions where you're better off just changing to the maximum performance mode profile before even launching that app. So I want to show how ways to automate that. Okay, so first, CPU-Z. That's going to be the app we're going to launch. CPU-Z will be handy to launch in this script because we can see very clearly if we got the gigahertz right. So 2.7 gigahertz in this mode. Go back to power saver, immediately you see it drop to under 800 megahertz, less than 1 gigahertz. Okay, so very handy for what I'm going to be trying to show. Now, where does CPU-Z live in the hard drive? There's the program location. Problem is, it doesn't let me put that in the clipboard. Kind of annoying. And the properties or open file location of the launching shortcut isn't what we want. We want this. We want the executable. But that's easy enough to spot. Program file, CPU ID. So let's just open up the Explorer. So here's the shortcut to CPU-Z. That doesn't do us any good. We need to actually get to the app itself. There's the executable. Next, we hit Windows plus R and hit backspace to delete whatever was there. And now we can drag and drop CPU-Z to the Start Run dialog and watch what happens. It types everything for us. Let's put that in our clipboard. And now let's type in Notepad to launch Notepad and paste from our clipboard. So we're beginning to build a batch file, a script, an automated way of typing a sequence of commands every time we want to run this app that we want to give a performance boost to. In this case, CPU-Z. In your case, it might be some other app that you want absolute fastest speed for the duration that app is running. Okay, what else can we do? Well, power config is the next tool we're going to need. Power config is at a command prompt. So if we hit Windows plus X on Windows 8, we can open up a regular command prompt. We don't have to be admin for this. Power config. I've had other videos featuring this app. It's not really an app, it's just built into Windows. And it's been there since I think even Windows XP days, so for over a decade. Now what we really want to do is look at the current list of power profiles. It's right there, aliases. Let's try that. There we go. Max, min, balanced. So those are the ones we're going to use. They're shift by default with, I think, any instance of Windows that you have. They may have been tweaked. In my case, they're still at factory defaults. So if we click on More Power Options, we get this dialog box you may be familiar with, where you can change plan settings. For the purposes of this video, we're going to go from the factory default of balanced over to high performance and back again. Let's look in high performance. Right now I'm plugged into wall power and processor power management. The minimum power state on battery is 5, plugged in 100. And I could always click on Restore Plan Defaults. So if you're following along and you're not sure if you mucked with these settings and you want to go back to factory defaults, that's fine. Cancel there. I didn't make any changes. All right, so those are the power profiles that we're going to be toggling. How do we set those? Well, we just showed you on the right, really. And if we look a little further here, set active scheme. That's what we're going to be using. So it's this simple. Change the power profile to the maximum speed. Run the app. You don't want to use start. You need to wait for that app to finish and then run the next sentence, which looks like that. And then exit when done. So the very simplest way we can do this is with 4 lines. Okay, I like to make a directory called command in my new systems. That's just what I do. And let's call it MaxPowerLaunched. Saved as all file types. I don't want it to append an extension. I just want it to be called MaxPowerLaunch. Okay, there's the thing I just created. There's the contents of the thing I just created. So it's going to set the scheme to max, and run the CPU Z utility and show the gigahertz, and then go right back to balance when done, and then exit. So let's go to Power Saver. Okay, so now I'm in Power Saver mode. If I launch CPU Z manually, okay, we'll see the gigahertz at 798. Close CPU Z. Launch File Explorer again. Shouldn't have closed it really. Now we're ready to make a shortcut. So we now have a shortcut on the desktop to launch this thing we just created. Okay, CPU-Z requires you to click on yes to even launch. So that's normal, nothing we can do about that. That's just this particular app's behavior. All right, it appears we have some troubleshooting to do. Scheme Max did not work. Core speed is staying at 798, briefly bumping up a second there. So we have a little more work to do. Let's have a look. How about power config? Query the current, right? Let's see what we're in. It's get active scheme right there, get active scheme. So it's saying that power saver is still active. So set active to scheme max did not seem to work. So what if we just grab this command and see what's going on here? Is there a typo in the script or what? So I put that in the clipboard. I just want to paste it right here and see what could be going wrong. We manually hit that command. We should be in max. And now if I hit up arrow twice and query the scheme, it should be showing max, but it is not. This is where aliases come in. I find the names to be unreliable, and they don't always, well, they don't always work. So do you remember this command? If we hit up arrow a bunch of times and do aliases, now we get a list of these things called GUIDs, these unique identifiers. So let's try again, but this time instead of the word scheme underscore max, we're going to use this GUID thing. Hit enter, it's now on the clipboard. Up arrow a bunch of times. Okay, how about down arrow? Click here, edit, paste. Okay, so now I'm going to try setting an active scheme like that and see what's active. Yeah, we're still on power saver. Got the whole thing back on the clipboard. I'm going to hit Windows X. I'm going to launch command prompt as admin this time around. Now let's see what happens. Hitting tab doesn't work. You have to actually type that stuff. Uppercase doesn't really matter. So on this particular machine, this is looking rather difficult. Power set. Okay. So, balanced and high power are the two I want to toggle between. And I did not have this trouble over there. Let me explain. So let's get to be in a state where balanced and high performance show. Okay, I've achieved that now. Those are the only two things showing. Why? Because those are the last two you selected. The third gets dumped to the lower part of the list. Fine. Let's try again. So it seems that getActiveScheme is inaccurate. Hard to say. If we look here, we're showing 800 gigahertz. Now we're at 2.7 gigahertz. Balanced and high performance are the only two options, and we're actually at 2 gigahertz. So now if we just query where we are, we can see we're in balanced. Excellent. If we up arrow and go to max and query again, we're in power saver. So what we're seeing here is the names are wrong or misleading. So I saw this on one other laptop where I'd messed around with power. This laptop I have not messed around with power. This is just factory defaults. So it appears what we're seeing here is that the names are very misleading. And I'm going to try out these two commands on a different system here, local. So here's a machine that's local. And let's see if the GUIDs actually match. So power saver is the max mode, strangely. 20B4A. Let's see if that's the same. Yep. So the GUID doesn't change. So what we really have to do is figure out a script that starts in the mode we're in, or excuse me, looks at the mode we're in before we do the script and make sure we set it back to that mode we're in, whatever the heck it's called. All right. So opening up that command line to show the scripts and the names and using it as admin mode turned out to really be a dead end. So let's try a whole different approach. Let's go to power saver, balanced. That's where this machine is shipped by factory defaults. That gives me decent battery life. Nova Yoga, let me unplug it. Okay, so it's no longer charging. And it's not estimating the runtime yet. I need some more time, but let me just go ahead and plug it back in. Okay, so whatever that mode is called, the power configuration utility, that's what we want it on. So let's see how balanced looks at a command line. All right, that says the word balanced. Cool. So the first line, excuse me, the last line, of the script here is now established to be correct. That's going to get me back to where I am. What about when we go to high power, high performance? Okay, what's that called? High performance. Here's the thing. There is no scheme called high performance. It's merely called scheme max. There's a GUID called high performance, but the name that you type is max. So, you know, this is where it gets tricky. So if we try to set to max, and then query what it is, it's actually called power saver. Makes no sense. Power saver, right? Let's go back. And let's force our scheme to high performance. The active scheme is called high performance, but it's really the GUID that we need. I hit the enter key to put it in the clipboard. And that didn't work out so well. Hang on a second. There we go. So we want to set it to this high performance mode. And when it's done, going back to balanced, I'd rather be consistent and just ignore names and go with GUIDs because of everything we just saw here, how weird it is. Triple click, edit, paste. All right. So it's going to set it to high performance, run CPU-Z, set it back to normal, and exit. And save. So instead of launching from there, let's launch from the command that's sitting on the desktop. Now, what mode are we in? Let's convince ourselves again. Let's go to this power saver mode. Let's make sure CPU-Z runs showing 798 megahertz. It does. And now when we run this icon, CPU-Z should launch a second time after changing the power profile. And it should show higher gigahertz. It did. It works. As soon as we close CPU-Z, this window in the back should just continue on in the script, setting it back to the original power profile and then exiting the script. Interesting that exit is staying open and the window's staying open. So I'll have to look at that. Missing a carriage return or something. No, I'm not. So that's a little odd. So that'll be our next bit of troubleshooting. But before we get to that, let's just do CPU-Z. So CPU-Z running, well, it's going to be a high number. Why? Because in that balanced profile, we do expect a high number there. How do we know we're in balanced? Well, let's have a look. Sorry, this gets a little confusing if you've never done done any batch files before, but active scheme right there, balanced, the word balanced shows. So I'm pretty well convinced. If I click here, it also shows the word balanced. So we have a script that works. It just doesn't seem to exit properly for some reason quite yet. Make sure there's no weird spaces in there. Hit enter. Save it again. Let's add one other bit of refinement. Let's run it as a minimized window so it's not in our face the whole time. And on the General tab, we can change icons right here. We can change what it's called. For me, that's good enough. Not the best name in the world. Okay, so it's running minimized, so it's out of our face. It's launching CPU-Z. It shows the gigahertz and 3 windows. This MaxPowerLauncher TMD, the new one that's been spawned, should just go away once we close this. It did. All right, I think we can close Windows now and clean up and make this a little more compelling here. Okay, script is saved. Icon's there in the desk. We launch it. It does its thing. It runs minimized in the tray. We can peek at it at any time. And when we click OK and to continue, it sets the active scheme back again. And it's supposed to go poof and go away. That's very strange. Sure thought it worked the first time. I've even got it recorded. Why the second time would be any different, I do not know. Something to do with opening the window? Doesn't make any sense. Well, it needs a pause perhaps. So I have a script that works. Let me go ahead and get that going. So I've got a more thorough script that has better descriptions of what's going on. And using what I just learned here about the strange names, I'm just tweaking that script and getting it ready to show you on screen here. Very strange though. I'm still finding it surprising how exit stopped working. Weird. CPU-Z, by the way, is if you search for it in Google, the very first hit is where you're going to download it. Sorry, let me get that. I'm just putting that in my documentation so you can see where I got the tools in this video. Okay, so here's the script. Let me copy it to the clipboard. There. It's longer. So this script is pretty simple, just longer. It's got a little more polish on it. It's got some documentation at the top. which is only visible when you open up the text file. It doesn't run or do anything. That's what the double colons do. And it shows where the utilities I use to show frame rate or the gigahertz. It also is going to echo on screen what it's doing. It's going to set power to max, and it's going to sit there for 5 seconds. This little choice countdown thing works without any third-party utilities. It works even on ancient versions of Windows, so it's just kind of handy. It launches CPU-Z, it sets power back to balance, sits it for 5 seconds, and it tells you it's going to exit in 5 seconds, and then it truly exits. So this script has really been tested. So we've got the new script. Let's see what happens if we pin it to start bar. Notice it won't let you do that. I can right-click and drag to the desktop, though, and create a shortcut. And as we talked about, I can make that shortcut run minimized. Okay, nice clean start. We can even close Explorer. Launch it. Open it so we can watch it run. You can see it's commented nicely. It tells us what it's doing. We're done looking at the 2.7 gigahertz. Click OK. It's setting power back to balanced. It even tells us by looking at the active scheme to confirm it's working. And then it tells us it's going to die in 5 seconds and just disappear. Wow. Script not exiting when you type the word exit at the end. I cannot explain that other than to suggest I might want to, I don't know, log off, log on, reboot. I can't explain it. I've never seen that happen. So we're close. Yeah, let me just go ahead and restart. I'm going to have to reestablish remote control. Working on that now. Okay, remote control is coming back. And I'm going to have to blur out that email address. Okay, so we're back to the desktop. Let's see how this icon works. Let's also take a moment, though, to set CPU-Z. Sorry, set the power profile so CPU-Z shows at a lower gigahertz. I want to make it more obvious that the script is actually working. Okay, so we're at 798. Great. Now we're ready to launch the script. It's running minimized as it's supposed to. If I click on it and open it, it shows. It launches CPU-Z. It even tells you leave this window running, because we closed that window. The power profile is not going to get set back to where it was before we started. 2.7 gigahertz, so yes, it did bump up the power profile. You can see it saying it right there. The active scheme is now high performance. Click OK. That triggers the script to continue along the left edge. Sets my power configuration back to balanced. And now it should exit that window. Annoying. Um, Okay, I'm going to run this very same script on my own machine. So on a different laptop, I'm going to try to run that script and see if we get the same results. Okay, I can see it's running now on my local laptop, not the one that's actually recording with Camtasia here. Different animal, different CPU. Okay, it exits, goes back to balanced. Without clicking anything or doing anything, let's see if it actually exits. It does. So the same exact script fails to always exit on this particular machine. So the next question is it only when launched as a shortcut? Let's try that. I'm holding down Shift, right-clicking on the command folder and saying open command window here. So if we run MaxPower from there, see if that acts any different than launching from a shortcut as far as exiting properly. So it makes no difference how I launch it. It just doesn't want to exit on this particular machine. Trying to see if there's something weird, like more windows than expected running. I do see something a little strange there. So if I close this, what is this other console window host doing? Con host. Yeah, it doesn't look like we want to do that. Let me see if that's on my local machine here. I may have to Google a bit for what is really going on here, because I just have not run into this. Okay, console window host is normal to have a bunch of copies running, so that's not the likely culprit here. What else can we do? Well, earlier you saw me mess around here. Saw me delete all that, type in exit, hit carriage return, save the script, and just see if that actually changes things at all. Nope. Ah, hit the wrong thing. Okay, so that is not a decent explanation. So what we're really looking for is other people talking about this, and there's plenty of people talking about it. Come on. Using exit alone will close the command window. You can use it within a batch file to exit. Nothing real obvious here. Notice I just get rid of the exit. See if the window actually disappears that time. Seriously doubt it, but let's delete the one we're no longer using. Edit the one we are. And see if somehow adding one more carriage return before that null statement makes things suddenly work. Not so much a carriage return. Well, actually, yeah, echo. See what happens. Well, let's see if this one still works. The simple one, the 4-line one. No, that one didn't work before either, actually, now that I think about it. Sorry about that. I have an idea. It's to use the kill command to kill the window I'm in. It's a little extreme, but it should work. So instead of exit, which is apparently hit or miss for me today for some reason on this machine, we're going to kill all command lines we may have left open. CMD to DXE, that's what it's called. Carriage return at the end, say yes. These 5-second pauses, by the way, they're really just to make the script easier to follow as it does its thing. They're also making it rather slow for me to test, so I probably should have moved those to a lower number. But clarity with following along with the video is important. Okay, here we go. It worked. If we launch it again and run Task Manager, we'll see the process is called cmd.exe. So if there's multiple things called cmd.exe, this will not work. So we could do cmd.asterisk to kill all instances, but that seems a bit extreme. I killed off the script. It should still work though. Yeah, this machine, I don't think it's really going to have command lines open very often. So, nice clean start. Close everything. Finally ready to wrap all of this up. And if we leave this on the desktop, we can do a shortcut key, like Control-Alt-M for Max or something like that. So, cool. I hit Control-Alt-M, it spawns this window, it launched it. We click on it to open it so we can watch it run. It does its thing. We can see it's set to high performance. It's now setting the scheme back and querying it and saying it's back at balanced. And it's killing itself. Self-destruct in 5 seconds, which it did. And now if we look here, we should see that we're in balanced. We are. So, after only 50 minutes, I'm finally done. Hopefully you found this video helpful and interesting and learned a few things. And I think if you're watching, as always, your feedback would be greatly appreciated.